We start off with an opening card for Pumpkin Patch Pictures, giving us an immediate notice this is a low-budget film. Nothing wrong with that, considering this was also made in 2005. But the point of Zombie Sins is to nitpick the story, writing, and especially the characters, their choices, and the zombies themselves. Either way, support the channel Official Darkroom on all their platforms, and their newest movie, I Got 5 on It 3. Links in the description. So, here we go! Yeah, this is definitely the mid-2000s. Still better than House of the Dead. 2 minutes of distorted scenes of Jermaine running in a nightmare scenario until he eventually dies, to music I assume was a rap track a friend of the movie made and wanted to hype up. While I appreciate friends supporting their friends, I can't help but feel that this is a bit, not to sound overly white, but tacky. But then again, it was 2005, so can't say too much. We have two brothers talking about a long night as younger brother Jermaine says some messed up stuff is going down at the lab of his older brother Ricky. I wonder what the cause of the zombie outbreak will stem from. We transition to the lab, I guess? The sciences sure have had budget cutbacks in recent years. This scientist is perfecting a regenerative formula, apparently made from what looks like Mountain Dew. Mountain Dew, gamer fuel, but for zombies. I would pay good money for that prop cat. It's cheesy, obviously not real, but reminds me of Gizmo the Gremlin. So I love it, but also had to wonder why they couldn't get a real cat for this bit. For 2 minutes, we get Ricky going on about the start of his day to music, representing getting out of the hood life.
Me and my brother were scheming to get up out this bitch. This bitch I speak about the ghetto, the streets, the hood life. Drug dealing, drug using, homies trying to earn stripes. The hood life ain't no joke, man.
But I don't think we needed a 2-minute music video to describe this. They're making a formula that can bring back the dead. Or they say it brings back dead cells to life, but it's just to heal animals. Apparently to resurrect a rich woman's poodle, but they're experimenting on rats with PETA on their backs about doing this. You would think a formula involving reanimating dead cells would have a much larger staff than just 2 people in a small chemistry set. Jermaine's crew is chillin' when a trio rolls up saying Jermaine's group called the cops on them. Weapons get drawn and threats get delivered. This confrontation is brought up in conversation as Jermaine says it's a consolation that his boys caused the other crew some condensation. From there, Ricky says he wants to move them out of Oakland. Jermaine gets defensive about moving to Castro Valley.
Yes. Oh, that's why we moving to Castro Valley. You done let this white girl poison you.
And I gotta admit, he ain't lying. As Jermaine is leaving the house, he is blown away in a drive-by shooting, leaving his brother Ricky to drag his body inside and call his lab partner Scott to bring over a vial of the cell regenerate formula, saying his brother is dying. Look, my dude, that many gunshots to the body with one even in the head, he is gonna be all dead. No cap. So why not tell your partner someone's actually dead, maybe? Well, Scott agrees to this, and after a minute-long montage of him driving around the neighborhood, Scott arrives at what is apparently the lab. The vials of this miraculous chemical are stored in an ordinary locker. You would think they would at least have stored it in a fridge, that way it would stay cool, with a bit more security around the building considering they are in a bad neighborhood of Oakland, as well as the scientific breakthroughs this would have. It would be a highly sought after chemical. Scott shows up with the vials as Ricky Pulp Fictions the cell regenerate syringe needle into Jermaine's heart, performing CPR on him, injecting him in the heart again, with Scott going full homo with mouth to mouth. All failing as Scott says to let it go and calls the police so the coroner can drag his body away. I'm surprised the cops weren't called already with that many gunshots going off. But as a white boy who stayed isolated playing video games and watching zombie movies for 95% of his life in suburban areas, I can't say too much about the police response time in these kinds of places. Jermaine decides to start waking up from the dead in the coroner's vehicle because 2 direct stabs to the heart with the serum weren't enough to get him going. I guess Jermaine is just a heavy sleeper. Ricky wants to kill the guys responsible for Jermaine's death and asks for help, but how is he going to go about this? The coroner's vehicle is pulled over with the two coroners convulsing and dying near and in the vehicle. You gotta wonder how Jermaine got them this fucked up and bloodied. I only really saw one bite mark on a guy's hand. Unless the zombies in this universe are violent enough to beat and maim people to death, like the infected of 28 Days Later, I don't really see how they got this messed up. Now, I do gotta say, I do love the soundtrack for these parts. It's a bit cheesy and a bit minuscule, but it does give me an old 70s to 80s horror genre vibe, mixed with some 2000s charm. So, I'm gonna minus off one sin. The crew that shot up Jermaine, of Julio, Adriel, and Damon, are sitting outside on some park bleachers discussing if they need to be in hiding after their drive-by shooting, with one guy fearing either gang retaliation or cops identifying them and arresting them. I would assume Damon is being correctly cautious. But hey man, don't worry about it, fool. Bottoms up.
Quit tripping, Damon. Ain't nothing gonna happen.
Talk about perfect timing. Good thing Zombie Jermaine knew exactly where his killers would be chilling out. Julio hits Zombie Jermaine in the head with a bottle, stunning him for a bit, with Adriel getting bit and the rest of the crew dipping out, allowing Damon to get eaten alive by Jermaine. Now there's two things here I want to point out. It sure was easy for this first guy to die so easily after being bit. And second, Jermaine seems to really like to take his time with his meals, sitting there chewing into the dead body even though two other targets are right nearby. He doesn't really leave a corpse unless there is a ton of noise and lights to attract his attention. So why did he leave the two coroners alive and convulsing? Plus 2 sins. Also, I would expect the two guys here to be packing heat, especially for staying out in the open at night and gloating that they could fuck up Ricky if he came looking for payback.
We got rid of the guns we used, did that shit quick as fuck, and it's nighttime, fool.
What if he comes looking for some payback?
Then we fucked that fool up too. I don't care, shit.
They expected some kind of retaliation, but didn't have any weapons? Marco and Kevin inform Ricky that Jermaine came back from the dead. Ricky calls his lab partner Scott, telling him the serum had actually worked.
The cell regenerate worked!
Sure they're not fucking with you?
Scott doesn't know what he's talking about, despite being involved in the regenerator cell project that they have been experimenting on dead animals with for who knows how long. Adriel, looking like a moist pepperoni dipped in grease, dies from his bite wound. It still makes me wonder about the coroners back in the ambulance who were convulsing and still holding on for dear life long after being mauled and bitten. Scott shows up and is told Jermaine ate someone alive like a dog, and comes to the conclusion that it was probably because of the formula.
Jesus, the fucking formula.
No shit! I do appreciate that they actually explain how a decaying corpse could be so strong against living people.
Sounded like Jermaine had a lot of strength to be able to fight off 3 guys and kill one of them.
Well, maybe the double dose of the formula increased the cell regeneration at an alarming rate.
The double Pulp Fiction exposure had probably allowed his muscle mass to grow on top of reanimating his dead cells. So kudos, -1 sin for that explanation. Scott suggests calling the cops. Ricky says doing so would lead to them being arrested and definitely prosecuted for stealing the company's formula. And I guess creating a cannibal corpse. But remember, this is America. We know they would get sentenced for pilfering a company's trade secret more so than causing a few deaths and making a zombie. We all know companies are more important than people. So -1 sin for the characters being believable and giving a reason to why the cops aren't being called immediately. Ricky wants to capture his zombified brother to run some tests. It's gonna be hard to do that with your limited resources and no way of restraining him in mind. You're just kind of raw dogging this situation. Julio finally decides to resort to calling 911 after Adriel had already apparently died. And then he starts showing signs of life again. That's when he decides to call 911. Why did he wait until then to call, despite his disdain for cops?
Man, fuck the cops.
Especially since right here, he outwardly says a zombie bit his friend over the line. This implies zombies are known in this universe.
Calm down, sir. Do you know what bit him?
A dead person! A zombie!
Julio knew Jermaine was a zombie that had bit Adriel, and despite knowing what a zombie is and what they can do, does not show any urgency that his friend that just came back won't do the same to him.
A fucking zombie!
He did. Plus 3 sins for Julio's oversight. Ricky and Scott return to the bleachers where Damon was killed, but wonder where his body is. Again, people in this universe know what zombies are, so they should have come to some sort of conclusion at this point. Zombie Damon decides to come growling out of the dark once they decide they've come to a dead end and start to leave. Damon, you've got some good timing. Ricky pulls out his gun and starts firing at Damon, missing every shot. While not a sin for a dorky guy like him, not experienced in firearms, to miss, Scott says to aim for the head like in the movies, as it's the only way to kill a zombie that is known, and then Ricky proceeds to do just that and gets him right in the head. So they also know the rules of killing a zombie, but did not think zombies were in the equation up until that point?
It worked! Oh, fuck! Go!
Okay, this scene, especially with the music going in and out, was pretty damn hilarious. Intentional or not, I'm gonna take off 1 sin. While in other scenarios, I would say multiple gunshots would draw the attention of either zombies or law enforcement. In this case, not many zombies are existent at this point, and the setting being in Oakland in 2005, where not only was the crime rate at a steady high, but also in that period of time, the Oakland PD was understaffed, with Oakland PD officers only having 9% of their staff actually living in Oakland, while also having community relations issues pertaining to homicides and how the PD responded to them. So it's not too far-fetched for a city with a high crime rate and a smaller police force with community relations not being that well, for the police response to sounds of gunshots being heavily delayed, and why Ricky was carrying.
This is Oakland. I thought it would come in handy someday.
So minus 1 sin for keeping it real and given a unique look at a zombie outbreak. The formula in its zombification is explained by Ricky that if the cell regenerate enters the bloodstream and makes its way into the heart in order to create and spread more of the cell regenerate throughout the body, which I guess would make sense for a dead body that you directly injected twice into the heart. But why would it cause a fatal fever that kills a bitten victim? If anything, this cell regenerate would amplify the already living cells within a living host. But it's easier to just say the virus mutated and it's causing people to become zombies, I suppose. As they discuss this, they hear growling coming from their car where they left Kevin.
Kevin!
They find a zombie dining on Kevin. Or wait, no, that is Kevin. What is this zombie dining on then? And why did they say to pull the zombie off Kevin? I don't see a Kevin. Oh, this is Adriel, who was bitten turned earlier. The captions just say it's a zombie, so I'm having a hard time deciding who this is. No one else is in the car when they arrive or leave. I had to take a few takes and go over this a couple times to understand what was going on, but ended up more confused. So did Kevin get bitten by this zombie and scamper off? Is he in the back of the car and we just can't see him? How come we don't see any blood on the back of the seat? They probably didn't want to get it on there because it was a low budget film and they didn't want to mess up the upholstery of the car. But was this Adriel and Kevin ran off without a body? I'm just having a hard time understanding what happened here and why we are not allowed to see what happened to Kevin. They shoot this zombie. Scott pulls him out like he is full on dead without getting bitten. It convulses on the ground, but is still alive. Ricky runs out of ammo in his clip and says more rounds are in the glove compartment of the car. While they're screaming their brains out trying to figure out what to do, they eventually, after like 10-15 seconds, run to the car. The zombie, Adriel, zombie Adriel, gives them enough time to do all of this. He's just sitting there going on the ground. And when they finally get in the car and they're starting to drive off, he finally gets up and starts running at their moving vehicle. Thank God zombies are considerate enough to allow living people to get away. Apparently, these zombies can retain the intellect to wander back to places they once knew. Hence why Jermaine was at the park where he was threatened by the 3 dudes earlier in the movie. A callback to the Romero film's zombie mannerisms. minus 1 sin. Well, they decide they're going to go to Julio's house, as that is probably where Jermaine's zombie is heading. Expecting to see them as probable zombies, Ricky says he has no problem taking out Julio or any of his friends if they're dead. Good on them for finally planning ahead with these zombies. But then it all turns south when he says he wants to take Jermaine alive. He says this because he assumes Jermaine's former memories will prevent himself from wanting to attack his brother. What is he basing this conclusion on? Every zombie up until this point has been ravenously hostile, and Ricky hasn't even seen his dead brother yet to make this kind of conclusion.
Why the fuck did he attack his friends?
Scott would be great at zombie sins.
I just don't know.
Ricky, not so much. They arrive at Julio's house and Scott spots some blood on the floor.
Look at the blood!
Damn, Ricky, why you smiling? They follow the blood trail and find someone's dead body. I guess they got eaten a bit too much and didn't turn, unlike previous zombies. They have a lot of off-screen bodies, I guess to save on the budget, but it does raise some questions. Scott says they should call their boss Dr. Dr. Richards to get to the bottom of this, saying that the formula getting this out of hand would be bad for his company and that he would have no choice but to help them. Ricky calls Dr. Richards and gives him the lowdown, eventually explaining that they have to be shot in the heart, since the cell regenerate activates when exposed to the heart through blood flow. Another example of how did you come to this conclusion after going for the head before? A few frantic gunshots gets this character to make this baseline conclusion about shooting the heart without other context? I get it, they're scientists and that's probably what it's going towards, but it didn't feel like this knowledge of taking out these zombies was earned. Julio and Adriel's zombies are inside of Ricky's house waiting for him to arrive. Julio turned, killed a family member, and got to Ricky's house in the time that Ricky and Scott were driving around this whole time? He is a fast as fuck zombie for having a little chub on him. Yo, they didn't have to do the fake cat that way, man. This girl Josie comes knocking at Ricky's front door. Zombie Adriel answers it, grabs her, and instead of biting her, he just grabs her and drags her inside, and Julio shuts the front door afterwards? Well, at least these boys weren't raised on a farm. Those are some polite zombies. Two drug dealers are discussing business here, and then Jermaine's zombie shows up. Although the captions say that Adriel is growling, causing me more confusion from that zombie mix-up earlier. Since this particular zombie is obviously Jermaine, so why does the caption say it's Adriel? The two drug dealers unload into Jermaine, and you're telling me none of those shots hit? Earlier, a single gunshot would cause these zombies to convulse on the ground for extended periods of time, no matter where on the body they were hit. But Jermaine keeps sprinting towards them after he was just completely blown away? Okay, now we are back to Ricky and Scott. A zombie shows up and this one definitely is Adriel. The caption says it, and they even say it's the zombie from the park that attacked them. So the whereabouts of Kevin are still unknown? I would like to know what happened to him. Remember, zombie Adriel had fully sprinted at them as they were driving off earlier. But now he's deciding to just slowly walk up to the car so Ricky can line up this easy shot to confirm that bullets to the heart are effective in killing the zombies. How convenient. They put Adriel's dead body in a nearby shack. But my suspicions of where Kevin is are finally answered. So they are knowingly driving around Kevin's dead body in the back seat after he was bitten and mauled by Adriel, and Kevin's dead body could turn at any moment? What the fuck? Why are you driving him around knowing all of this? Ricky sees his front door is open. After Julio and the other zombie made sure to close it earlier, they find Ricky's girlfriend Josie dead and ripped open on the floor. So Ricky decides to finish her off before she turns. Good on him. But it looks like he aims for and shoots the head in this situation. I thought that was advised against. I thought you're supposed to go for the heart. The gunshot finally awakens the long dormant sleep of zombie Kevin in the back seat. Why did he just now decide to start getting active? Kevin's rather interesting performance, is met with a mercenary with a shotgun. This mercenary was hired by Dr. Richards earlier in the film. The mercenary fires a shotgun point blank at zombie Kevin, and Kevin shows no signs of damage? What? How? He, or a big portion of his body, should be a bloody pulp at that range. That's a damn shotgun. But instead, Kevin somehow got this far out of the car window, enough to grab the mercenary shotgun for a little tug of war. You would think an ex-military gentleman like this would know better than to get into this kind of situation. Ricky says to shoot him in the heart. The mercenary pulls out a pistol and does so, killing Kevin. You're telling me the shotgun didn't do that in the first place? Or that the mercenary didn't think of pulling out his pistol in this situation before? Okay, this big tough mercenary is described as ex-military and is named Romero. Nice little reference. They decide the best course of action is to find Marco, the only living kid left to properly search the neighborhood for remaining zombies. I don't know why they need the kid to find a loud, growling-ass zombie out in the middle of the neighborhood, but whatever.
Man, I love that snatch. Feeling on her tits. Rubbing on her wrist. While she's sucking on my...
What you listening to, son?
A random white couple are making out at Lake Merritt. The girlfriend questions if it's safe to be out this late in Oakland. The boyfriend says that besides the druggies and dealers and some gangbangers, it's fine because...
Besides that, we're not black. We'll be okay.
As a pasty white man, I do not condone the message of this gentleman here. While they are making out, zombie Julio walks by them, paying them no mind at all, despite the boyfriend yelling at him to fuck off, thinking his zombie grunts are actually moans of perverted pleasure. Why was zombie Julio here ignoring him so adamantly? The boyfriend tries to act like a big man against Julio after assuming he is a druggie and ignoring his bloodied state. Once the white guy is close enough to Julio, Julio attacks him, gets him to the ground, and instantly kills him somehow with a bite. You gotta love how main characters are able to survive these skirmishes, but if you're not a main character, you just die instantly to one bite. Scott, Romero, and Marco see the white girlfriend fleeing the scene of the crime and arrive to see Julio... motorboating this white boy? The trained ex-military mercenary that is Romero, knowing the threat of these zombies and what they can do, knowing that they can bite and that a shot to the heart is the key to success, misses an easy point-blank shot and just stands there guffawed without fighting back so he can get easily bitten by Julio? The guy with combat expertise is bitten shortly after being introduced this idiotically? Yeah, okay. Not like a guy like this who gets paid thousands of dollars for underground dirty work wouldn't have prepared better for this or anything. Ricky and Richards discuss what could result from this night's events, either to jail time for them or a major scientific breakthrough. Probably both, but they make a semi-fourth wall break by saying
they can make a movie out of this shit while we rot in prison.
The drug dealers from earlier jump Ricky and Richards' car, with one of them having an eye-popping perspective. I gotta wonder how Jermaine was able to not only infect them, but cause them this much damage and kill them from earlier. The eye-popping zombie gets blasted a few times by a shotgun, but doesn't get knocked on its ass or respond in any way. I would think a shotgun blast would do something physically notable to a zombie. Scott is driving with Romero's condition worsening. Ricky tells him over the phone that he could turn at any moment. So they're just ignoring the building problem of the bulkiest guy there potentially becoming a zombie? They're just gonna brush it off? Why? Richards got some blood in his mouth from the confrontation with the zombie earlier, and he starts coughing pretty quickly. Ricky and Richards both, who are in the scientific fields, brush this off as not even possibly infecting him as long as he spits out the blood. Not very scientifically minded of you, my friend. Once again, Scott explains the cell regenerate with only 10 minutes left in the movie, saying this:
Makes dead cells healthy again.
Yes, science!
Okay.
He says it wasn't intended to be used on dead tissue, but I mean, with a descriptor like that where it says it brings dead cells back to life, wouldn't that actually be its intended use? After seeing that Kevin turned from a bite earlier, Scott, with a bitten ex-military in the passenger seat, says this.
He was only bit. The others had been dead. Maybe it won't do anything. Maybe just make him sick.
Bruh, what? You're willing to take that risk while you're in a closed space of a car? Really? Richards has reddening around his eyes and is coughing up a lot of blood, but no cause of alarm or anything. Just sleep it off or something, man. Call me in the morning, take some Tylenol. Ricky recommends vomiting a bunch to flush out the blood he ingested.
Not scientifically possible!
Yeah, great advice from a scientist who said multiple times that once infectious blood enters the heart, it's game over. But nah, just puke it up, bro, you'll be fine. Romero dies in the passenger seat, and Scott just sits there like,
fuck. I think he's dead.
Do you think he's dead?
They get out of the car and gawk at him for 20 seconds as he starts to come back. Jump scares and stupidity mandate a double sin. Ricky goes to check on Richards in the bathroom and hears growling, so he jumps back to the kitchen to grab the gun. You're telling me you ain't staying strapped knowing this guy's probably infected? You didn't keep the gun on you? Why did the characters go from smart at the beginning of the movie and reasonable to just plain stupid? Richards sneaks out of the bathroom as Ricky checks it to get this sneaking around scene. The zombies are apparently smart enough to do this kind of Scooby-Doo hijinks of going past doors and whatnot. Speaking of that, zombie Jermaine comes in from the front door to attack the zombie Richards for some reason. Ricky kills Richards. Jermaine gets up on his feet to slowly approach his living brother Ricky, only for Ricky to shoot him in the heart reluctantly. So why did Jermaine attack the zombie Richards in the first place? The whole remembering his former life and protecting his old brother thing, I get that. Or did Jermaine want this prey all to himself? Look, I get the premise of remembering your former life, but it felt like it was just there to have a final conflict for Ricky to have, and just to say, hey man, we're brothers, you wouldn't kill me, right? Scott walks in and sees Ricky crying over his brother's officially dead body alongside their boss's dead body. Instead of consoling his friend and co-worker or seeing if these zombies are legitimately dead, Scott just says the final two lines of the movie.
It's over? We get them all?
Yeah, that was pretty lackluster, my dude. But wait, there's more! The coroner's vehicle from earlier is finally found by a passerby. As he looks inside and starts to call for help, the coroner creeps from the bushes as they had apparently been waiting there that whole night to jump someone, killing this guy, leaving it up to a sequel I'm still waiting for 16 years later, ending The Hood of the Living Dead on a cheesy cliffhanger. With all that said and done, the movie actually started off strong in its own regard for a small budget and an inspiration for Romero's and Fulci's work. Being shot on location in Oakland and bringing up social issues in various degrees in its first half, it felt like it was building up to be a rather different zombie movie with explanations that actually made sense, with characters that did have great motivations. But then it spirals into what I expected from a low-budget zombie flick, having the characters make consistently questionable decisions, the zombies being inconsistent in their actions, and introducing random characters that amounted to nothing more than zombie kill fodder. But its scenario gives a different perspective for the genre, and I'd say it's still worth a watch, especially with a few beers with the boys. And I recommend watching it on either YouTube or Tubi TV to support the people that made this film. So, links in the description if you want to watch it. I appreciate them allowing me to do today's video. So thank you guys. Minus one more sin.
Wow.
Now let's see how a nigga moment affects a white man.
Watch where you walking, bitch!
What did you... Wait a minute. I'm white!
Where you going?
Jermaine! Oh my god!
What?
Well, there was nothing we could have done. Let's just hope the cops get the bastard who did this.
Stay close. If you see anything, scream.
Shoot her ass! Now!
Now that's That's What I Call Music Volume 10. Call the number on your screen to order now. That's What I Call Music Volume 10. And you'll also get this bonus CD, What's New, free with your paid order. 2 CDs, just $19.98 plus $4.95 shipping and handling.
Somebody call the police on your bitch ass.
I know it had to be you or your faggot ass brother. Cops came and raided my house for weed. I know it had to be one of y'all scary bitches.